So what happens when the unspoken rules between allies, the ones that hold everything together, suddenly just dissolve? The story we're unpacking today isn't about some failed real estate deal. It's about something way deeper, a hidden fracture in the foundation of trust between two of the world's oldest partners. A break that happened quietly, but with huge consequences. This quote right here really gets to the heart of it. This wasn't some loud public argument for the cameras. According to the source material, this was a quiet, fundamental break. It's that terrifying moment when allies stop hoping for the best and start planning for the worst.
And that's the crucial point, right? This whole confrontation over Greenland was never really about the territory itself. It was a case study in power dynamics, in ego, and what happens when those unwritten rules of an alliance start to crumble. It's a psychological drama playing out on the world stage.
So where did this fracture even begin? Well, it all started publicly with Donald Trump's repeated interest in the U.S. acquiring Greenland. But honestly, the story isn't really about that initial idea. It's about the extraordinary and historically loaded response it provoked from Denmark.
Okay, this is the moment everything shifted. In response to all the talk about Greenland, Denmark felt it had to publicly remind the world that its soldiers are authorized to fire first if their land is threatened. Now, think about that. This wasn't some negotiation tactic. It was a stunning admission that they could no longer just assume goodwill from their most powerful partner.
And that leads us to this key concept from the source material: psychological rupture. It's this invisible line that gets crossed. It's the moment the dusty old contingency plans get pulled off the shelf and the absolute worst-case scenario is treated as a real possibility. This is exactly what experts believe we saw happen between the U.S. and Denmark.
To really get the gravity of what Denmark said, we have to look back in time. The true weight of their reminder isn't just in the words themselves, but in their origin, where and when these rules were first written.
Now, this is a really crucial detail. In response to Donald Trump's statements, Denmark didn't just invent some new aggressive policy out of thin air. What they did was way more subtle and, honestly, way more powerful.
Instead of writing something new, they reached deep into their own archives. They simply confirmed that pre-existing defense protocols were still very much in effect. And that's what makes this so significant. They were applying old fears about a specific kind of threat to a totally new situation.
And here's the kicker. The rules they brought back up, they were written in 1952, right at the height of the Cold War. They were designed to repel an invasion, telling soldiers to respond immediately without waiting for a politician to give the okay. By invoking those rules, Denmark was signaling that it had started to view a potential threat from an ally through a terrifyingly old and very scary historical lens.
So why on earth did this happen? To really understand the psychology at play here, the source material points us to the work of author Robert Greene. It helps us frame this whole thing not just as a political squabble, but as a fundamental clash of worldviews. This slide really lays out the core conflict. On one side, you've got Donald Trump's power strategy, which the source describes as being driven by personal need, a tone of entitlement, and a focus on self. And on the other side, you have Denmark, whose strategy is rooted in law, history, and institutional structure. These two worldviews weren't just disagreeing, they were operating on completely different playing fields of power.
Now, according to this framework, the fixation on Greenland wasn't really about some grand strategy. It can be seen as a leader seeking to feel vast and central. The idea is that when a leader feels their influence might be slipping, they gravitate toward these huge, symbolic gestures of acquisition to restore that feeling of dominance. So, if you follow this analysis, the obsession isn't about geopolitics. It's about ownership. It's about control. It's about the psychological comfort that comes from acquiring something big. In this framework, Greenland becomes less of a strategic asset and more of a symbolic prize, a massive stage for a hungry ego.
So what happens when these two completely different approaches to power collide? Well, they can get locked into a really dangerous cycle. It's what's known as an escalation loop, where each side's seemingly logical response just makes the whole situation more irrational and more dangerous. All right, let's walk through it. It starts with the provocation, the talk of control in Greenland. Denmark then reacts by reaffirming its defense protocols. Then other allies start to get nervous, and they warn that this could fracture NATO. But, and here's the key, to an ego-driven mindset, that warning can sound like a challenge, which just provokes more defiance. This defiance leads to isolation, which can then radicalize a leader's perspective, making them listen only to their own echo.
You see, every single step in that loop,
while it might seem like a rational move to the person making it, is also a public admission. It's a signal to the world that the shared mental map, that mutual trust that holds an alliance together, has fractured.
And this is where we have to zoom out. This isn't just a dispute between two countries anymore. It becomes a threat to the entire international system that's been in place since World War II. The real danger here is the collapse of the mental order, the shared beliefs and assumptions that have, for the most part, kept the peace for decades.
I mean, the Danish Prime Minister's warning couldn't be more blunt. She wasn't just talking about a simple treaty violation. She was saying that an act like that would shatter the psychological foundation of the entire alliance. NATO, as we know it, totally depends on the belief that there are some lines that its own members will simply never, ever cross.
This slide illustrates the underlying pattern described in the sources. It's the dangerous shift of a leader from administering institutional power to personally embodying it. And when that happens, simple policy disagreements become personal attacks. And allies who don't go along, they're no longer partners. They're just obstacles in the way.
And so we come all the way back to the central theme of this whole explainer. The true danger here was never going to be a battle for Greenland. It's the erosion of the unwritten rules, the shared norms, and the mutual restraint that have kept incredibly powerful nations from turning on each other.
And all of this leaves us with a really unsettling question. Once power is guided by impulse instead of by history and restraint, what, if anything, can pull it back from the edge? And can an alliance, once it's been fractured psychologically, ever truly be made whole again?